The Power of Solitude. He who learns to be alone is never truly alone. In the silent hills surrounding Horenji Temple, where the wind gently caressed the pine tops and the cawing of crows was a prayer at dusk, lived a monk named Renshin. Unlike the other disciples, Renshin did not seek company, nor did he join the long conversations over tea. He walked alone, ate alone, prayed alone. His presence was as subtle as a leaf falling in autumn. The younger monks watched him with curiosity, some with compassion, others with disdain. What kind of wisdom can come from someone who shuns others? They whispered among themselves. But the temple's master, the elderly Daiki, quietly smiled each time Renshin passed by without a word. He knew that within that silence flowed a deep river, invisible to impatient eyes. One morning, while the mist still cloaked the stone paths, Renshin disappeared without warning. He left behind only a note, written in black ink on rice paper. I have gone to the forest not to find answers, but to listen to the question. Renshin ventured deep into the mountains, where trees know no paths and the sky belongs to no one. After several days of walking, he found a forgotten wooden cabin nestled among birches and moss. It had no door, no furniture, no fire, just a leaking roof and a floor covered in leaves. There, he decided to stay. The first days were cold and hungry. Renshin gathered roots, boiled bark, drank from streams, and slept wrapped in his own breath. The forest offered no conversation, no comfort, only its constant creaking, like an old sage who never stops meditating. Over time, his mind began to slow down. The voices of the past, opinions, judgments, fears, dissolved like mist under the sun. In pure solitude, Renshin discovered something unexpected. He was no one in particular, and because of that, he was everything. Without the mirror of others, he had no name to defend, no story to repeat. Only the moment, raw and luminous, embraced him like a silent brother. One night, beneath the rain, he understood. The true teacher does not speak. He listens, and solitude is his language. One winter morning, while frost still clung to the branches, Renshin felt a presence. It was not human. In front of the cabin, a gray-furred fox silently watched him. It did not flee, nor did it approach. It simply stayed there, as if recognizing in Renshin another being who no longer needed masks. Day after day, the fox returned. Sometimes it sat beside him during meditation. Other times, it simply slept under the eaves, neither asking for nor giving anything. Renshin neither fed nor touched it. They only shared the same breath. Then, one evening, he realized something profound. Solitude is not the absence of company, but the absence of need. The fox sought no affection, no safety, no belonging. Simply was, like a mirror of Renshin's own existence. Free from desire, free from fear. That night, the monk wrote in his notebook of dried leaves, "When you need nothing from anyone, everything begins to come to you without being called." One afternoon, without warning, the sky darkened with black clouds, and the entire forest bowed to the roar of the storm. The wind tore at the branches, the rain battered the broken roof, and the cabin seemed ready to be swept away by the world. Renshin did not move. Seated in his usual corner, he watched chaos reign both outside and within. His body trembled, but not from the cold. It was the ego shaking, confronted by the untamable power of nature and complete helplessness. Yet, amid that roar, something silently broke inside him, the desire to control. In the storm, he discovered a forgotten truth. He who embraces solitude learns not to resist life. He learns to be like water, flexible, humble, invincible. And when the gale calmed, It was not the cabin that remained standing, but the emptiness within him. A sacred space where nothing needed to be said or understood, only lived. The seasons passed, and the world changed without hurry. Flowers bloomed, birds migrated, snow returned, and Renshin, in his cabin, remained a witness to it all without interference. He no longer meditated as before. He didn't count his breath or watch his thoughts. He was meditation itself, an awakened presence amid a sleeping world. One day, when he opened his eyes, he realized that silence was no longer a visitor. It was his home. The silence of the forest, the silence between thoughts, the silence between heartbeats, enveloped him like an ancient melody without instruments. Then he wrote on his clay wall, "Do not seek answers. Listen to the space between one question and the next. There dwells the eternal." He no longer felt alone, because he had discovered that true solitude is not isolation, but communion with what has no name. And in that communion, nothing was missing. Only the fox kept visiting, like an old friend who needs no words. One spring morning, while the wind played with cherry blossom petals, footsteps broke the stillness of the forest. 2 young monks from Horenji Temple had been sent by Master Daiki. They had heard rumors of a hermit living alone among the trees and wanted to see if it was true. When they found the cabin, they were surprised, not by its simplicity, but by the peace that surrounded it. Renshin greeted them with a gentle bow and a serene gaze. He said nothing. There was no need. The young monks began to speak. They told him about the temple, the new teachings, the changes, the doubts gnawing at their hearts. They asked if he ever felt lonely, if he missed human warmth, guidance, or the shared routine. Renshin listened like one watching a fire, attentive without clinging to the smoke. When silence finally settled, he took a wooden bowl, filled it with water from the stream, and offered it without a word. They drank, and only then did he whisper, "Solitude is not being far from others. It is being close to oneself." The young monks spent 3 days with Renshin. At first, they struggled to adjust to the rhythm of the forest. No clocks, no bells, no formal teachings. Only the sunlight marking the moments, the birdsong as their sole doctrine. There were no lessons, no advice, only presence. And yet, something began to shift within them. Questions dissolved before they could be asked. Restlessness melted away in the shared silence. They started to understand that not everything essential can be spoken. Some wisdom only grows in still soil. Before leaving, one of them asked, "Master, what has been your greatest discovery in this solitude?" Renshin gazed toward the forest, where the fox watched them from afar, and replied, "Peace does not come when everything is in order, but when you stop needing it to be so." The young monks bowed their heads, not out of respect, but as an act of surrender to the unexplainable. Renshin watched them walk away along the same path he had taken years before, when he left the temple in search of something he couldn't name. He felt no sadness, no attachment, no pride, only a silent gratitude for having shared, even briefly, his garden without flowers. The cabin fell silent once more, but it was no longer emptiness, it was fullness. That night, while the fox slept beside him and the moon shone without witnesses, Renshin wrote his final words in the damp earth with a stick left by the wind near his door. When one truly learns to be alone, they discover that the entire universe keeps them company. And so, deep within solitude, the invisible bloomed, a peace so perfect it no longer needed to be shared, because it was everywhere, even within you who now reads these words.